Um, oh, in progress. Okay, wonderful. And we have Mr. Taylor joining us today. He's a civil engineer at the Civil Engineering Lab of Macau, and he has worked on many infrastructure projects in Macau. I guess including the Macau International Airport, and he did his bachelor master in Universidade do Porto, and he is currently doing his PhD as well with Instituto Universitário de Lisboa, and he is also a visiting professor at USJ. But without further ado, Mr. Pereira has also quite strong interest in researching on like the infrastructure in China, Africa, and also the Belt and Road Initiative Portuguese-speaking countries. So I guess the voice is yours, Mr. Pereira, and we would love to know what we will be sharing with us tonight.
Well, thank you, Davis, and good evening to everyone. I would like to first of all thank Professor Wu Mei and the Fortunia Society for this very kind invitation and the opportunity to be here with you today. Secondly, I'd like to clarify that today I'm here not in the quality of a civil engineer, but as a representative, as a Macau representative of the Association for Cooperation and Development, Portugal Greater Bay Area, which I'll be talking about soon, a little bit more. So my approach tonight, this is to say that I will not be looking into research and development from too much of a technical perspective. I think that wouldn't lead us anywhere. So my choice was for an approach that is holistic in perspective, but an overview of this activity, research and development in both Portugal and China, and framed within these countries' strategic objectives. And if I'm lucky, I'll be able to shed some light on reasons and routes for increased cooperation. Now, for a topic such as this and for this webinar, I have chosen to prepare a presentation, which I would be sharing starting from now.
You want to share a screen?
Yeah.
Could you do that, or?
I think so. I tried it before and.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. So. Moving onward. So about this association, the Association of Cooperation and Development, Portugal Greater Bay Area, was established in Porto, Portugal in 2019. It came about as a result of the will of a group of friends from different professional backgrounds, some living in Portugal, some abroad, who shared the desire to strengthen linkages between Portugal and China in general, and with the Greater Bay Area in particular. To this end, the association is dedicated to promoting cultural events, tourism, environmental sustainability, strategy implementation, innovation, ocean economy, smart cities, and scientific cooperation in general, and business development. This is as stated in the mission of this association. So, even before the formal establishment of the association, we had our first event, and it was a major event in December 2019, celebrating the 20th anniversary of Macau's handover. And we were lucky enough, fortunate enough to have a brilliant panel at the time, which included, from left to right, Professor Carlos André, who you may recognize as he was in Macau in the Polytechnic Institute for about 7 years and did a very important work in the as a coordinator for the Educational and Scientific Center of Portuguese Language. He was before that the director of Faculty of Arts and Humanities of the University of Coimbra as well. Then on the second from the left was the moderator. Next to her is Bruno Maçães, you also might know. Professor Bruno Maçães was Portuguese Secretary of State for European Affairs between 2011 and 2015. And he is now a senior consultant for Flint Global in London. He is a recognized specialist in geopolitics with international bestsellers such as The Dawn of Eurasia and Belt and Road, A Chinese World Order, which you can buy in any airport around Macau. We also were fortunate enough to have the presence, the highest possible diplomatic representations of both countries in this seminar. Here is the Minister, Professor Augusto Silva. He's Minister of Foreign Affairs of Portugal. And at the time, the Ambassador of China to Portugal, Dr. Kairan, also was present. So this was a major success, held in the beautiful venue in Porto, the Bolsa Palace or Palácio da Bolsa, and included this cultural moment with a blend of Chinese and Portuguese music. The association has been present in the celebration of the Chinese New Year, which is held annually. Celebration is held annually in the casino in the Povo de Varzim, which is close to Porto. And in June this year, we joined a conference signaling the 100th anniversary of the Chinese Communist Party, an initiative from the Chamber of Commerce of Portugal, China, Small and Medium Enterprises. At the same event, a memorandum of understanding was signed for the creation of a union or a federation of associations of cooperation of friendship between Portugal and China. This union comprises ICODEPO, Institute for Cooperation between Portugal and the Orient, China Observatory in Portugal, International Research Center, our own association, the Chamber of Commerce, Portugal, China, SMEs, and the League of Chinese in Portugal. Well, with the occurrence of the pandemic, we had to cancel a lot of the events that we had planned. We had a very good start, but we are aiming to restart our activities late this year with a cultural event in Portugal, and we are also already working on our plans for next year. Now, finally, to the topic of this webinar, which concerns research and development, but in a wider sense, innovation. The tactic that I'm going to adopt here is to begin by drawing the international profiles of China and Portugal in terms of innovation and research and development. The purpose of this is to contextualize the resources possessed by both countries, which allows us then to infer on prospects for cooperation. So the question is, why innovate? In short, the answer is to attain competitiveness. For developing middle-income countries, innovation is the only plausible answer to escape the middle-income trap. And for developed countries, innovation is a means to be able to keep up with developments in an increasingly dynamic and competitive environment. Innovation therefore dictates the ability of an industry to produce new products and services on track with, or indeed ahead of technological developments, with the aim of increasing competitiveness so as to attain sustained competitive advantage, meeting economic and environmental targets. From this results a transformation towards or a consolidation of value-added industrial segments. Now, how do we measure innovation? There are different methodologies. The one that I'm here considering is the one employed by the European Union in their European Innovation Scoreboard, where the EU annually evaluates innovation profiles of countries across the EU and outside the EU. This method considers four main activities: framework conditions, innovation activities, investments, and impacts that contain 12 dimensions. That in turn contain 32 innovation indicators. Now I'm not going to go too deep into this. I'll just give a general overview. In the framework conditions area, we have as dimensions human resources, attractive research systems, human resources, obviously referring to the skill, educational level, and the share of highly skilled individuals in the workforce. Attractive research systems, accounting for the international competitiveness of the scientific base, and the digitalization corresponding to the level of digital technology implementation. Innovation activities means what it means, includes the dimensions innovative, the SMEs, the amount of innovative SMEs, linkages referring to collaboration level between public and private entities, and job mobility, reflecting the ease of high skilled workers to move between jobs. And the intellectual assets refer to patents, trademarks, and design applications. Investments refer to financial aspects pertaining to the activities required for innovation, most notably research and development. And impacts refer to the results, in some sense, the impacts that innovation activity has on sales, on environmental sustainability, and the structure of the employment. This graph shows the results of the EU against countries outside the EU, with the innovation performance of India, South Africa, Russia, Brazil, China, the EU, Japan, the US, Australia, Canada, and South Korea. Colored columns correspond to innovation performance in 2021 relative to the EU in 2014, which is the base here. The gray columns correspond to the performance in 2014, each country relative to the EU's performance in 2014. And the hyphens indicate the performance in 2020 relative to the EU in 2014. The hyphens here are useful in order for us to have an idea of the effect of the pandemic on innovation performance. So what we can observe from this graph is that South Korea is the most innovative country in the world, performing 21% above the EU in 2021. And it has had the second greatest increase in performance between 2014 and 2021, 26.7%. Japan surpassed the EU in innovation profile. And Japan and the US also showed a higher rate of growth of their performance, 19% and 16% respectively. China had the largest increase in performance during the 2014-2021 period, 27.9% increase. China, with a score of 84, is considered a moderate innovator, which corresponds to scores above 70% of the EU performance. Portugal is also classified as a moderate innovator with a performance score of 80.2 relative to the EU in 2021. and 90.3 relative to the EU in 2014. However, as may be observed in this graph, Portugal's performance showed a considerable drop between 2020 with a score of 90 and 2021. This is most likely a result of the pandemic, as it is clearly contrary to the trend observed in 2014, between 2014 and 2020 period, where we had considerable growth, most notably from 2017 onwards. This fact is further emphasized by sharp declines in firm investments and employment impacts, employment on knowledge-intensive activities, and innovative enterprises. Portugal's strengths are for the greater part, in the framework conditions area, with strong performance in attractive research systems, which measures international competitiveness of its science base. Dimension where Portugal is classified as a strong innovator. An exceptional performance in digitalization with a level of digital technology implementation. Portugal is also strong in human capital with a number of doctorate graduates in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics on par with the EU average, although lagging in regard to percentage of population with tertiary education. Portugal's top indicators are foreign doctorate graduates, international scientific co-publications, and job-to-job mobility of human resources in science and technology. This recent decline in innovation performance hides strong performance increases in tertiary education, government support for business research and development, ICT, information and communication technology specialists, job-to-job mobility, and environment-related technologies. Basically, Portugal's major strengths are in framework conditions, encapsulating highly skilled human resources, internationally competitive science base, and a high degree of digitalization, linkages showing high capability and collaboration between firms and institutions, as well as job-to-job mobility among highly qualified professionals. In summary, Portugal has a scientific base, human capital, and infrastructure required to achieve a higher innovation profile. As for China, China is a moderate innovator, and while its performance is still below that of the EU, it has increased strongly since 2014. Relative strengths are in business research and development expenditures, trademark, and design applications. Looking at structural differences, employment shares across three broad industries, the agriculture, industry, and services is quite different. While employment share in industry is similar, the EU has a much larger share of employment in the services sector. The share of value added of the manufacturing sector in China is almost twice that of the EU. China has a smaller share of foreign direct investment inflows relative to GDP, relative to gross domestic product, and top research and development spending firms spend less on R&D, on research and development than in other countries. This is in contrast with, for example, the US, where top research and development spending firms, those among the world top 2,500 firms that invest in research and development, spend 60% more on research and development than the EU. The US top firms, top research and development investors spend 60% more than the top firms from the EU. Entrepreneurial activity in China is at a higher level relatively to the EU, and the number of unicorns, meaning startups with a valuation over $1 billion US, is more than triple the amount of the EU. In summary, China is fast gaining ground in its innovation profile against most developed countries. Irrespective of how we measure innovation, the importance of research and development cannot be overstated, as it permeates several of the dimensions that define innovation. It is no surprise, therefore, that despite financial crisis of 2008, global expenditure in research and development has increased continually during the last decades. You could almost draw a straight line there, irrespective of fluctuations in crisis due to financial crisis or pandemics or whatever. We now look at technological trends that shape research and development investments. The 2020 edition of the European Union Research and Development Scoreboard identifies 3 major technological areas of greater relevance for the next few years. The first one is software, artificial intelligence, and quantum computing. This contains contextual aspects. Certain aspects have dictated a recent increase in interest. This interest already existed, but due to the pandemic, for example, remote meeting technology like Zoom and cloud storage have become more important due to restrictions on travel and increase in home working. Advancements in artificial intelligence have led to progress in self-driving cars, technology, and language translation. AI is also beginning to have practical applications in the discovery of new drugs and disease diagnostics based on medical scans. Quantum computing is slated to be the next revolution in computing. Supposedly it's imminent. Uses quantum mechanics principles to solve problems that would require too much memory and processing time for supercomputers. The second area is biotechnology. And despite advances in areas such as agriculture and bioenergy, biotechnology's most visible and impactful application has been, without a doubt, the successful development of new and highly effective drugs, as is the case of the development of the vaccines for the COVID-19 coronavirus in less than a year, in a process that would normally take 6 to 10 years. The third key area is high performance in materials and processes. Continuous research and development investment has been dedicated to a wide range of new materials, like novel batteries and fuel cells, nanomaterials, high temperature superconductors, super efficient solar cells, etc. Progress with new processes has likewise taken place. An example is prefabricated houses that are printed in 3D in order to save labor costs and construction time. Progress in higher energy density batteries has extended the range of electric vehicles and is bringing near the possibility of fully electrically powered commercial flights to a wider range. The world's first fully electrical commercial aircraft had its first flight in Canada in December 2019. So this is the scenario that dictates the investment in research and development. We have fast-paced developments in several scientific areas, in some sectors at a faster pace than others. What this has resulted in is a continuous increase in research and development investments, particularly and driven by the private sector, which accounts for roughly 2/3 of investment in research and development. China is the world's second largest research and development player, with total R&D expenditure, research and development expenditure reaching 80% of that of the United States in 2019, up from 26% in 2005. So from 2005 and to 2019, China gained 54% ground against US in terms of R&D investment. R&D investment in China has grown at a much faster pace and is catching up with the US. China has surpassed the 2% of GDP threshold very quickly in terms of R&D, research and development intensity, meaning research and development investment as a percentage of GDP. In contrast, the EU, which targets a 3% GDP research and development intensity, only surpassed the 2% threshold in 2018, albeit at a much slower pace than China. Growth in research and development investment has been fueled by the private sector, with the top 2,500 companies each investing more than 35 million euros in research and development in 2019 alone. And I'm using 2019 first because it's the year where we have most comprehensive data, but also because it's unaffected by the effects of the pandemic, if any. This investment accounts for on aggregate to a total of 900 million euros, which corresponds to 68% of total expenditure in research and development, and 90% of research and development expenditure financed by the business sector. The US is the country with the greatest number of top investors in research and development, 775 out of 2,500, and have the highest aggregate corporate research and development investment, 350 billion euro. China has the second largest number of top investors in research and development at 536, and has the third highest aggregate corporate research and development investment with 120 billion euros, still behind the EU. Growth in research and development has been fueled by the private sector. The top 2,500, so in this graph on the left, what we can see is in the blue columns, the research and development investment growth. This is growth. And in the orange line, we see net sales, and in the green line, we see profitability. So net sales of the private firms have fluctuated, as has profitability, but regardless of that, the investment in research and development has continued. This growth in research and development investment is mostly fueled by the ICT, information communication technology, the health, and the automotive industry. Automotive meaning cars and all kinds of motorcycle vehicles. So ICT and producers and services sectors account together for 40% of corporate research and development investment, followed by the health industries with 20.5%, and the automotive industry. These four sectors contribute to 77% of corporate research and development. The different research and development concentration among sectors helps to explain the differences between countries in research and investment growth. Different sectors have different R&D growth intensity. In this regard, the companies in the ICT producers and services sectors and in the health industry sector are the ones that invested the most in research and development. Countries with a larger share of top companies in these sectors, such as US and China, saw a larger R&D investment increase. This is further illustrated in the column chart here, where we see sharp increases in R&D in companies such as Alphabet, Microsoft, Huawei, and Facebook, comparatively to other firms like Volkswagen, who have had a lower increase in research and development. These two maps show uh, the R&D investment concentration based on the headquarters of top R&D investors. What we can see here is that this is an activity that is highly concentrated basically in North America, Europe and China, and Japan and South Korea. Here we see a distribution of subsidiaries of firms from different countries. What we see here is that the EU has has the most subsidiaries, largest number of subsidiaries, 31.7% of the total number of subsidiaries, with 40% of them located in the EU. The US has 29.2% of the total number of subsidiaries, most of them being located in the US. That's 49.5%. China has 11% of the total number of corporate subsidiaries. 81.8% of them are located in China. This suggests at present a comparatively lower commitment level to internationalization of Chinese firms in comparison to other countries. Here we see a profile of the top Chinese research and development firms. Of these top 15, 2 are ICT producers, Huawei and ZTE. 3 are ICT services companies, Alibaba, Tencent, and Baidu, and 6 are construction companies. China State Construction Engineering, China Railway Construction Corporation, China Railway Group, China Communications Construction Company, Power Construction Corporation of China, and the Metallurgical Corporation of China. Basically, the ICT producers, ICT sector is the main sector for R&D investment, followed by construction with 12.2%. This is great because I feel right at home here with construction. But it is a different pattern compared to the profiles of other countries. China's outstanding research and development growth is explained by the fact that they have more new companies and increased sales faster than other regions. Another factor is China's ICT sector is stronger than the EU's and Japan's. Finally, I got to the end of this part, but although this dragged for quite a while, it's important to contextualize what we describe from here on, which is basically I will be talking about some of the research and development institutions in Portugal, and we will be touching upon what can be done in the Greater Bay Area in terms of China and Portuguese cooperation in this area. So here are the main takeaways from this first part. Research and development growth is fueled by the private sector, leading to accelerated technological development and increasing market dynamism, requiring continuous efforts of countries to improve their innovation profile so as to keep up with developments. Despite financial crises and pandemics, research and development investment has continued to grow. China is building up its innovation profile at a very fast pace, fueled by high dynamism and growth in the information and communication, technology, health, and low-tech sectors. China's overall expenditure in research and development is growing at a faster pace than that of other countries, and has achieved in 2019 an R&D intensity of 2.2% of GDP, higher than that of the EU with 2.1%, but lower than the US's and Japan's 3.1% and 3.2% respectively. In terms of internationalization profile, the top research and development spending firms in China have a lower internationalization level, where internationalization should be understood as an effective establishment of companies abroad, showcasing commitment to a specific foreign market. This conclusion is derived from the fact that Chinese firms have far fewer subsidiaries abroad in comparison with other countries. Over 30% more shares of domestic subsidiaries comparatively with the EU, US, and Japan. So in terms of share of subsidiaries, China has a much higher percentage of domestic subsidiaries. Portugal has a solid scientific base, rich human capital, and is strong in the linkages I mentioned and international co-publications indicator, which is a reflection of a propensity for collaboration projects, both in public, private, and international. However, Portugal is underperforming in the impacts and innovation activities dimensions. China is growing strongly in most innovation dimensions, but there are question marks regarding international scientific cooperation and public-private publications. These facts show potential for complementarity. So now we'll be taking a look at some leading research and development institutions in Portugal. I won't be looking at all of them because I would need at least another 5 webinars to discuss that and all the scientific sectors that we could explore. So this will be a brief overview, and there are other major institutions in Portugal at work, but I mentioned here the Civil Engineering Laboratory, National Civil Engineering Laboratory of Portugal, for several reasons. The first of which is that I'm a civil engineer. So the LNEC, or National Civil Engineering Laboratory of Portugal, was born in 1946 and was has been from the start one of the foremost institutions in the world in the scientific field. Many of the major developments that's behind civil engineering witnessed in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Some of them were born out of LNEC. LNEC's mission is to undertake, coordinate, and promote scientific research and technological development. Here in these images, what we see is the front facade of the main building of LNEC. LNEC is much bigger than this. Here on the bottom left, we see a seismic table to simulate earthquakes. And on the right-hand side, lower right-hand side, we see the work in airport pavements, which is something that I've happened to work upon myself. The LNEC has 8 department units, namely concrete dams, buildings department, structures department, geotechnics, hydraulics, materials departments, transportation, and scientific instrumentation center. So these images are from the hydraulics department. What we see here are simulations of hydraulic phenomena with breakwaters, dams, bridges, etc. These models are used to simulate hydraulic phenomena. Of course, we have a computer. We can simulate these things in computers. But a computer is only as good as the model. A computer simulation is only as good as the modeling that can be achieved with that simulation. So it's not just in hydraulics. Physical models are still used in other civil engineering research, such as wind tunnels to study the vibration of very flexible structures like bridges or towers under heavy wind loading or seismic loading. LNEC is home to the United Nations Commission for Europe International Center of Excellence on Public-Private Partnerships for Water and Sanitation. LNEC is also home to Liz Water, which is a non-profit association dedicated to public policies, regulation, and management of water services, and was formally established in March 2020. This prominence in LNEC in this area of water conservation and hydraulics in general is a reflection of the success case that Portugal is in the field of water management, and with special emphasis over the last 20 years, illustrated through various parameters such as coverage and quality of water supply and pollution abatement. Portugal has made huge advancements in the last few decades in this specific area. And on a further note, we are talking about cooperation between research institutions in Portugal and China and Greater Bay Area in particular. The Macau Civil Engineering Laboratory, where I work, was born out of LNEC in 1988, commissioned to provide consultancy services for the planning, design, and construction of the Macau International Airport. So, LNEC was sort of a mother institution for LECM. And to this day, LNEC still has a connection to LECM. It's still a partner, a minority partner. Important work was performed and research work was performed in years past in terms of hydraulic studies for the Macau airport, hydraulic studies for the Pearl River estuary, and the monitoring of maritime structures, coastal protection structures like dikes, and work on the technical standards that are still in use today and that dictate how construction is performed in Macau. Now we move on to the IST, the Instituto Superior Técnico in Portuguese, which doesn't really have a direct translation in English, but I'll do my best. It's the Technical Superior Institute. It's a public school of engineering and sciences and belongs to the University of Lisbon. It's the largest school of engineering in Portugal by number of enrolled students, faculty size, scientific production, and patents. IST has 3 campuses, all located in Lisbon, in the Lisbon metropolitan area, in the Alameda, Tagus Park, which is seen on the left here, and the Technological Nuclear Campus in Lourdes. IST has 23 research and development units and covers all areas of engineering and technology. My alma mater is the University of Porto. The University of Porto was founded also in 1911. It's the best ranked research university in Portugal by the Consumer Guidance Institute of Portugal, a ranking that is based on the number and quality of patents that are produced by research institutes. The quality of patents being evaluated based on the citations that they obtain subsequently. So they get extra marks if the patents are cited by others. The Faculty of Engineering at the University of Porto has several research centers: Center for Natural Resources and Environment, Institute of R&D and Structures and Construction, Laboratory of Process Engineering, Environment, Biotechnology and Energy, Laboratory of Separation and Reaction Engineering, Artificial Intelligence and Computer Science Laboratory, Research Center for Systems and Technology, and Research Center for Territory, Transports and Environment, and the Transport Phenomena Research Center. The University of Aveiro has made headlines for being a research, an admittedly research and development university, with research departments developing programs in fundamental and applied mathematics, physics, chemistry, telecommunications, robotics, bioinformatics, sea sciences, materials design, business administration, and industrial engineering. As a research-led institution, during 2015, 316 R&D transfer projects were active in the University of Aveiro. In 2016, the University of Aveiro and the German multinational engineering and technology company Bosch signed a cooperation protocol to develop innovative and efficient solutions focusing on heating and water treatment. In 2020, the Chinese telecommunications multinational Huawei formalized a partnership with the University of Aveiro and the Institute of Telecommunications to create a laboratory in Aveiro, the city of Aveiro, dedicated to 5G and artificial intelligence, reinforcing the university's reputation as a center for technological innovation on an international scale. This was taken one step further this year. In 21, in April this year, Bosch, together with the University of Aveiro, launched the Augmanity project, which has the participation of a large consortium, which includes Huawei, IKEA, and the University of Porto, among many others. The project aims to improve the efficiency of industrial processes, contributing to their environmental sustainability. Organized around 5 major technological areas: industrial economics, robotics, data science, industrial Internet of Things, artificial vision, visual and augmented reality, and human resources in the Industry 4.0 environment. The objective is to achieve a positive impact on industry productivity through the development of innovative products, processes, and services, and by applying technologies to support people operating in industrial environments. Around 255 people from the various companies and entities that are part of the consortium are involved in this project. INESCTEC, which stands for Institute for Systems and Computer Engineering, Technology and Science, is a private, non-profit research institution founded in the city of Porto in 1985 and dedicated to science research and technological development, technology transfer, advanced consulting and training, and pre-incubation of new technology-based companies. INESC encompasses 13 research and development centers structured according to 4 thematic domains: networked intelligence systems, power and energy, industrial and systems engineering, and computer science. It is one of Portugal's most influential research institutes, with developments in areas such as health, renewable energies, enterprise systems, artificial intelligence, robotics, etc. And moving on to the private sector, BIAL, and to something different from information technology and from engineering. BIAL is a pharmaceutical company headquartered in Trofa in Porto district. It was founded in 1924 and is among the largest companies of its kind in Portugal. Its products are sold in pharmacies in more than 58 countries and 4 continents. BIAL recorded the second largest number of patents among private investors in Portugal during the 2017-19 period and was ranked best private innovator in Portugal by the Consumer Guidance Institute of Portugal. Now, that was just a glimpse of some major institutions in Portugal performing research and development. There are several more. Now we look at the Portuguese landscape for startups. Portugal has 2,885 startups and 162 incubators. On the left-hand side, we see the distribution of startups, and on the right-hand side of incubators. They represent 1.1% of Portugal's GDP and 2.2% of exports. Universities and other public research institutions are strongly engaged with the private sector in Portugal. Most R&D projects are conducted are funded by a combination of government, EU, and private funding. Most universities are also connected to incubators that host spin-offs and startups. This creates a positive environment that allows smooth knowledge flows between public and private sectors, fast-forwarding innovation implementation. This characteristic of Portugal is attested by its innovation profile characterization that was previously introduced. What has resulted is a knowledge-rich and highly entrepreneurial startup climate. Portuguese startups are in turn mostly funded by venture capitals, 60% of their total funding, a third of which originate from the United States. We now look at Portuguese unicorns. And again, unicorns are startups with a valuation exceeding $1 billion US. These, Portugal again has 4 unicorns. I believe the first one, Farfetch, is known by most people. It's an online luxury fashion retail platform. that sells products from over 700 boutiques worldwide. They have offices in 14 cities and employ 4,500 people, including in China. Feedzai is the newest Portuguese unicorn. It's a data science company that helps financial institutions prevent, detect, and remediate fraud risk. Their platform authorizes or blocks electronic transactions based on past records. OutSystems is a low-code platform that enables businesses to develop, deploy, and manage enterprise-grade apps. And TalkDesk is a cloud-based contact center and artificial intelligence software provider. There are several up-and-coming startups that should join the fold in the meantime. Here are two such examples. Again, there are 2,000 and so many more. Sword Health is a Porto-based technology startup that has created an AI-based digital physical therapist. Sword's digital therapist combines education, behavioral coaching, and tailored exercises to bring physical therapy to patients' homes, which is especially convenient for those with mobility problems. At the same time, a clinical team composed of physical therapists and physicians can prescribe, evaluate, and supervise the patient's entire therapeutic program remotely. As most can probably guess, the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic augmented the advantages provided by this startup. The company saw eightfold revenue growth and delivered more than 2 million minutes of physical therapy in 2020. Platform E, also based in Porto, has created a platform that allows companies to adapt clothing and shoe wear to the preferences of different segments before starting production. This allows brands to give customers the ability to customize, personalize, and optimize goods to meet their specific requirements. Their clients include Hermes, Kering, Yves Saint Laurent, Nordstrom, or Hermenegildo Design. Basically, most top fashion brands in the world. Now, finally, we arrive at the Greater Bay Area. Plans defined for the GBA, Greater Bay Area, indicate regional specialization and complementarity, and in an integration process made easier with the development of infrastructure. Guangzhou is a political economic center, Shenzhen is a high-tech research and development manufacturing center, Hong Kong as an international financial center, and Macau as world tourism and leisure center, and a platform for cooperation between China and Portuguese-speaking countries. Different regions of the Greater Bay Area specialize in different industrial sectors. The impetus for modernization of its industrial sector was made explicit in the Made in China 2025 initiative. The project aims to accelerate this process with the target of establishing China as a world leader in high value-added sectors, ICT, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, etc. The Greater Bay Area is in the forefront of this process, with Shenzhen's research and development spending in 2019 being above 4% of this GDP. This is way above the top R&D intensity values that we saw in the country's profiles before. While the average value for the Guangdong province was 2.88%. As an innovation hub and a starting point for both the Belt and Road Initiative, an inward flow of foreign investment and knowledge is desired. This international character seems to be an important aspect of the project. Macau may play here an important role. In conclusion, China and Portugal have limited cooperation in research and development at the institutional level. An increase in such cooperation has a positive impact on many levels. Joint research projects carried out in China and Portugal creates and strengthens networks and synergies. It is a way to engage with potential innovators in an environment of mutual trust, allowing joint creation of innovative products and services and attracting entrepreneurs. In this regard, the Greater Bay Area would probably be the best location for this process. Portugal and China have a long-standing and historical relationship marked by cooperation, respect, and mutual benefit. In this day and age, technological dynamics dictate that knowledge is the most important resource required in the quest for competitiveness. As research and development investments will only continue to grow, scientific engagement at the institutional and business levels will promote development to the benefit of all. And this is an apt metaphor for the Silk Road spirit. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Blair. I think, well, I found that the first scoreboard, innovation scoreboard is very interesting. I'm not in that area, but I've never seen anything like that. Probably, I think it would be a good idea to develop similar scoreboard for also for cities in the Greater Bay Area, which will make comparisons with EU countries. But I'm not sure whether it can directly apply to be used at a city level. But I believe it's possible. So thank you very much for your very informative introduction of that. And I have some very general questions, but before that, a member of audience would like to ask a very, very specific questions. Is that you talk about some Portuguese institutions have cooperation with Chinese tech giants like Huawei or ZTE, right? But we also know that such company has been in the US designated as a national security threat, largely during the Trump administration. Do you think that this kind of ban from or sanctions from the US have any impact to Portuguese partners' cooperation with these Chinese companies?
Simple answer, no. But because we can check the facts. Actually, there was this polemic a few months ago. American ambassador to Portugal. This was still during the Trump administration. And this was, I believe, during the talks concerning investments in the Sines port between the China Communications construction company and Mota-Engil, Portugal's biggest construction company. At the time, the Minister for Foreign Affairs, who I introduced before, responded in kind, stating that Portuguese matters are the business of Portugal, and the US has no say in them. But apart from the words themselves, the fact is, I mentioned the agreement that was the protocol that was signed in April this year, also with Huawei, for the joint participation in this new project in the University of Aveiro, this major project that is centered in these fast growth sectors like ICT and so forth. And apart from that, we've had this recent acquisition of Mota-Engil, Portugal's biggest construction companies, and the only one to be amongst the 100 biggest construction companies in the world. ECCC has bought a 30% stake of Mota-Engil this year. So I think the facts show that that in this respect, the business relationship between Portugal and China are unaffected by these outside aspects, political aspects.
Yeah, thank you. And I personally I got a questions about Macau, and because I from your presentation, it seemed very clear that in terms of internationalizations of R&D investments, as you say, in terms of the number of foreign subsidiaries in China, clearly China, the number in China is still very low comparing to Japan, EU, US, right? In comparative terms, do you think it? Of course, it says something about the openness of China in these areas. Do you think Macau can play a role in fostering this kind of things in terms of having greater internationalizations of the tech sectors of the Greater Bay Area? Not only in ICT, China is very strong in ICT as in your presentation, but also in other sectors like health and car making, which are, I guess, comparative advantage of the EU.
I think Macau can play a role, honestly. The thing, I don't know if this came across, but the fact is that research and development activity is very intense, and is obviously is done on at the technical level, scientific
Yeah,
level.
yeah.
What I don't know if you noticed, maybe we had a lot to talk about. I went through a lot in this presentation, but one area where China is lacking is and it's important in this regard, is lacking in comparison with other countries.
Mm-mm.
Is ahead in many other indicators, but is in the scientific cooperation between public and private and between different countries. There are many scientific papers published in China, and scientific papers result from research that is developed. But there is a small number of co-publications with authors from other countries, and this seems to indicate this seems to be an indicator where there's clearly room for improvement and engagement. And I think Macau can play a role in fostering this kind of engagement. And then in terms of the technology, um, I believe, and what is stated in the official documents points this way, that the Greater Bay Area is supposed to be an international area and is supposed to attract innovative and highly skilled people and innovative and talented new companies, startups. The large amount of office space that is available in the Greater Bay Area that has been built, and we can see that here in Hengqin, it's clear, has that in mind, the influx of a large amount of entrepreneurs. Again, this is an area where Macau can definitely play a role in this collaboration between companies, either attracting firms from Portugal to come here, startups who, as there have been examples of in the past, to establish themselves in the Greater Bay Area, and likewise for Chinese firms, startups, and larger firms to establish themselves and engage in Portugal.
Yeah, but I guess for Macau to play a bigger role, probably it also depends on Macau's further like integrations or corporations with Hengqin, because we all know that Macau is basically a city for tourism, hospitality sectors, and we don't really have many big tech companies at the moment. So I guess it would also be depending on whether Macau can gain further development space in Hengqin, some new measures, innovative things to be done there. Otherwise, there will still be some bottleneck. I'm not sure if you would agree with me on that point. Yeah,
I agree. I think it's inevitable that the relationship between Macau and Hengqin will have to be organic. I mean, Macau cannot ignore the progress that is being the reality, and should not. And on the contrary, should embrace it, because this is a very exciting time for Macau, and it's very exciting to see what is happening in Hengqin.
yeah. Yeah. And last questions, I guess, from any other members of the audience is, do you or your associations have any concrete plans for attracting Portuguese startups to try their business in the Greater Bay Area?
We are working on that.
Yeah. Okay. Look forward to that. Yeah. And I guess that's it for tonight. And thank you very much again for sharing with us so many insights. I must emphasize, I can't emphasize enough that your graph and charts are all very informative and provide with us some real comparisons, very useful insights within EU and EU with China and US comparison. I think that's really informative. Anything to add, Mr. Wu?
No, it's just
can we have a Diego's PPT?
yeah, sure, I can send it. No problem.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Then that's it for today, and muito obrigado.
Obrigado.
Okay.